early breakfast on Times Radio with Elevon. Whatever size your business is, Elevon has a payment solution for you. Find out more at elevon.co.uk.
18 minutes past 5 on Tuesday, the 19th of August. It's time to go through the morning's papers on Times Radio. And here to do that with us is the barrister and the broadcaster, Andrew Eborn. Good morning, Andrew. Live from the Edinburgh Fringe, I believe, up at the festivals. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Tom. It's always a delight to join you. The hamsters are working extra hard and the wheels up here in Edinburgh.
Well, I'm glad that they've got you on air with us. Thank you for joining us. Let's start on Ukraine. How did you think Volodymyr Zelenskyy handled yesterday?
Oh, I thought it was incredible. Such a difference from his last meeting with Trump. Now, you might remember that Brian Glenn, the chief White House correspondent of conservative outlet Real America Voice, he praised Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on his military-style suit. He was sort of saying, oh, well done, he looks really good in that. And I liked it. It's a comedy moment where Zelenskyy, obviously going back to his comedy roots, said, well, Trump said the same thing. He was praising him. And the journalist apologised to Zelenskyy. And a smiling Zelenskyy pointed out to Glenn's suit, saying, joked in response, well, you're still wearing the same suit. So I thought it was a very different atmosphere. It was upbeat. There was optimism in the air. And as you say, it's now trending, the trilat. We're going to see what's going to happen about that. It sounded encouraging. I think, going back to the Putin meeting with Trump, however, that it looked as though that Putin was sort of driving the narrative there, even when he was sat in the Beast, even when he started the press conference and so on and so forth. It was a very interesting time. I hope and pray that we get peace. I hope and pray that we get everybody together and make that happen.
Yes, and I think, as you say, the joke, which was, I think, the standout moment of that Oval Office sort of press conference huddle, showed that Zelenskyy was slightly more on the front foot, was slightly more up for it and prepared than maybe he was before for what was that unexpected ambush by Trump and
I think the point is this, Tom, is that people knew how to play Trump, if you know, how you've got to butter him up. Even Putin was sort of turning around and saying, oh, it was Biden's war, it's his fault that he started it. And that's the best way of, I always say, if you're in any negotiation, know the person you're negotiating with. And everybody seemed to play to Trump on that sort of basis.
Yes, Mike gets in touch. President Zelenskyy did a good job yesterday. A NATO Article 5-star security guarantee, including the US, even if it won't include American boots on the ground and a nuclear umbrella, is a big win. On land swaps, that was rightly left for trilaterals. We'll see if and when that happens. But Zelenskyy repeated his line that any land swaps would require a ceasefire to make them constitutional by way of a referendum. We will have to see quite when that trilateral meeting happens, what happens on land swaps. Still so much to unpack. We will return to this, I am sure. Just looking at some of the other stories in the papers this morning, Andrew. Here in England, I know you're up in Scotland, and I mention that because I think there is relevance there. Sir Keir Starmer says he absolutely supports people putting up English flags. This is after Tower Hamlets became the latest council to take them down. There's sort of been a spate of St George's crosses being tied to lampposts, street signs and that sort of thing. Council's taking them down on safety grounds, they say. And Sir Keir Starmer saying, absolutely, you should be able to put up the flag. Some people say, it's showing a lack of patriotism by councils. What do you make of this? Should we just be flying the St George's flag willy-nilly?
Absolutely, we should be flying the St George's flag, and Starmer's right to back that. It's a symbol of pride, not provocation, and shouldn't patriotism be celebrated, not silenced? It's absolutely crazy that Palestinian flags can fly and not England's flag. We have to celebrate. It's not wrong to be proud of our identity, or patriotism should indeed be celebrated, and let's do that.
Yes, well, I mean, that's sort of the heart of this debate, is that some of these councils, Tower Hamlets being one, people accuse them of not acting quickly enough to take down Palestinian flags, which have been tied to lampposts in similar ways, and then acting more quickly on English flags. But then others will say it's part of this Operation Raise the Colours is what the Times has sort of... that's the name of the campaign, as quoted in the Times. And that has been backed by some people, including on the hard right, like Tommy Robinson. So the other side of this is that, well, not only is it a safety thing, but actually there is a sense of incitement in some quarters.
Well, I think we have to put this in balance. You can't have some flags going up and not others. The vast majority of people are proud to have their heritage. They're proud of their patriotism, and it's not and shouldn't have a negative connotation on that sort of basis. I think we should be proud. As I say, it's not about safety. It's about consistency. I don't think it should be viewed as something of provocation, but rather a symbol of pride. And we should rejoice in that pride.
And I mentioned you're up at the Edinburgh Festival. You
Yes.
get St Andrew's saltire flown everywhere in Scotland.
Yeah.
That is absolutely sort of uncontroversial. It seems to me from, admittedly an English perspective, but whenever I've been up there, that seems uncontroversial. You'd say the same thing about the Welsh Dragon, for example. So why is there this controversy, do you think, about the St George's Cross? Is there something justified in it? Is it just snobbery? What is it?
I think we need to look at the positive side, and people celebrating their heritage has got to be right. As you say, I'm up here in Edinburgh. I'm basically helping script and direct Alison Jackson's Faking Famous, which is all about these wonderful lookalike celebrities. She's a BAFTA award-winning artist, and she's at the Assembly checkpoint to do come along and see us there.
There we go, good plug.
We're celebrating pride, and I think pride should be celebrated everywhere and encouraged. It's not a threat. It shouldn't be seen as a symbol of threat, but a symbol of pride. And I say everybody wearing kilts. I obviously bumped into Donald Trump here, the lookalike, and he was wearing glorious resplendent in his kilt. And I think that's what we should look at. We should absolutely encourage people to be proud of where they come from.
I want to touch on a story that's in page 2 of the Times and, of course, is online. Pensioners to make up 1 in 4 adults by 2075. Yes. Obviously, this is 50 years away. I think I will be a pensioner by that point. I can't quite do the maths off the top of my head. I hope I'll be a pensioner. I think I'll be old enough by that point. So it's still a little way off. Do you think, though, we are ready as a country for this sort of demographic shift that we're heading for?
It's a massive wake-up call, Tom, and I'll tell you why, is that actually there's a real problem about population around the world. It's a declining population where the younger generations are declining, but the older ones are obviously increasing. People are living longer. The economics of the thing means that the younger generation effectively has to help pay for people when they get older. So they're talking about raising the pension age to 70. They're talking about keep on pushing it. So by the time you and I retire, and obviously I'm just in my 20s, by the time you and I retire, they could be bumping it up to significantly longer. But if they say by 2075, a quarter of UK adults will be pensioners, that's 19.5 million of them. And state pension costs are going to be soaring to 7.7% of GDP. We're starting a sort of financial time bomb, and we need to look at that. And I know it's distressing for people to link pension age to life expectancy, but we need to make sure that makes sense, because if it doesn't financially make sense, we're going to have real problems further down the line.
Yes, and I'd be so interested to see how it affects our sort of a national view of immigration, for example, something that's so controversial now. But if we get down the line and we need a lot of young people working, caring for us, keeping the economy going, and the only source of that is young people from other countries where there is a higher birth rate among younger people, then will we be more accepting of that? Only time will tell.
I think you make a very good point, Tom, as always, and I think it's that balance, isn't it? At the same time, a lot of people get frustrated about not being able to access services because of what they perceived as the immigration migration crisis. And if they think other people from other countries are getting those services and we are being deprived, it obviously causes resentment. So we need to look at both in tandem.
And just finally, Andrew, a pub in Waterloo in central London has begun automatically adding 4% service for drinks ordered at the bar. Would you pay service for a pint?
Well, it is interesting. I mean, I travel around the world, as you know. I was in New York very recently, where service is added to everything, because actually that's most of the people who are servers. They are dependent on those tips.
Yes.
But you're right, the Well and Boot, as it's called in Waterloo, it's basically testing British patients. 4% service charge, for a pint at the bar. So they're not even bringing it to your table. It's instantly added on when you go there and doing it. And when you look at the prices in London already, it is crazy how much it is to cost. But the important point is this: it is discretionary, it is optional. They do claim, they say we've added this, and people have to take it off if they want to. But if you go to different countries around the world, it's automatic. People expect there to be tips added on. And as you know, in America, they're talking about not taxing those tips as well. So that is part of the service economy, but we need to change the mindset. Is it right to tip people? If that's part of the mindset, then people wouldn't object so much.
And I think it's also possibly a sign of pubs struggling financially a little bit. Andrew Eborn, the barrister and broadcaster, thank you for persevering live from Edinburgh. Do enjoy if you are up there. Right.
Across the UK, on DAB, online and on your smart speaker. This is Times Radio.
Joining us now from Edinburgh, Scotland, is barrister, broadcaster and president of Octopus TV, Andrew Eborn. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Prince William and Princess Catherine are set to move into their forever home by the end of the year following renovations, but they've broken with tradition in a move to set and save taxpayers millions of dollars. What more can you tell us about the move from Adelaide Cottage to the much larger Forest Lodge in Windsor Great Park?
Well, first, it's an absolute delight to join you, Gabriella. You're right. What's happened? It's these forever homes. They're moving from Adelaide, well, not your wonderful city, but rather the name of their cottage. I call it a cottage, but it's a 4-bedroom house. Wow. And what they're going to do, they're going to move to an 8-bedroom house because they want privacy and they want a bit more space and they want to move on from what's been a pretty awful period. Obviously, we had the terrible diagnosis of cancer for Princess Catherine. We've had some terrible times, the falling out of the brothers, Harry and William, which I hope will get patched up. And they're hoping to move to what they call the Forever House and Forever Home. And basically it costs £16 million to move into it. But as a result, they've had to move out apparently 2 other homes for 2 other people or 2 other families because they can't be too close to the royal couple. So that's it. What's the good news is, Gabriella, is that they're going to be paying for the renovations themselves. So rather than saying to the taxpayer, you've got to fork up for this, they themselves will dig into those rather deep royal pockets and pay for the relevant decorations and everything else. And the interesting thing is there's a whole history of this, where the royal family went through a stage when they weren't very popular in the public eye. And the Queen, being very good about this, turned around and thought, well, okay, how can I make it better? And one of the things she started to do was to turn around and say, well, I'll start paying taxes, I'll start paying for some of my own things. And I've cut down on other royal expenses. And as a result, the public increase in popularity was quite phenomenal, seismic change in that. And the late Queen Elizabeth, was basically responsible for that sort of stuff. So I think basically what Prince William and Princess Catherine are doing is looking at that sort of side. She's adored by everybody in the UK, Princess Catherine, and they've been following her on her journey. And it's extraordinary, the support that she's received.
And you can absolutely see why she is so popular. As you mentioned, a time to kind of get away from a lot of the drama. There was plenty of drama surrounding Prince Harry. He's, of course, no longer popular at all. And interestingly, historian Andrew Lowney has not removed allegations about Prince Harry's relationship with Prince Andrew. These are allegations that were made in his new book entitled Details, The Rise and Fall of Prince Andrew, including details about his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, details about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and as well as the alleged mistreatment of staff. But tell us about the claims that were made and now, extraordinarily, that Andrew Lowney is not going to remove them.
It is extraordinary. And you think of all the things that they mentioned, and you talk about Epstein and the various allegations there and the allegations of bullying. What would cause somebody to issue a legal letter? Well, yet again, Prince Harry steps up for that. And basically, it's 2 things. One is the alleged altercation between Prince Andrew and Prince Harry. And the other was an alleged comment that Andrew made about Meghan Markle, now obviously Harry's wife. wife. And the suggestion was that there was a fight between Andrew and Prince Harry. And the suggestion was that Andrew said, well, Meghan Markle's too old for you. You should look for somebody younger. Prince Harry denied all of that. He denied all of that. And what happened, Gabriella, is exactly that. They sort of turn around and say, here's a letter before action. We're going to get our lawyers to write a very stiff letter saying it's completely false. HarperCollins and the company within that group sort of turn around and say, well, we're not going to change it too much, but we will put in the audio copy of the book, entitled, as you say, we will put in Prince Harry denies the claims. So that has gone in. But he's very litigious. We've had a number of cases. He's kept the courtrooms very, very busy for all sorts of cases. And this is the latest threat. But of all the things to come out, I say it's those two things. It's Prince Harry to sort that, rather than you think Prince Andrew and the various other claims in the book. Yeah,
it's wild, isn't it? Now, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have signed a new deal with Netflix. I mean, Meghan Markle was absolutely mocked for her season that went on air earlier this year. But what can we expect from this one?
Well, it's a significantly downgraded deal is what it is. And if you remember the fanfare there was for the original Netflix deal, reported $100 million and that golden handcuff deal as a result. This is what's called a first look deal. I'm here in Edinburgh in the middle of the night at the TV and Film Festival and also the Fringe Festival. And obviously all the great TV executives from around the world are here. And what a first look deal is exactly that. What they have is they turn around, they might have lots of different projects, and Netflix will have the right to say, oh, I quite like that, or no, I don't. And as a result, that's what it is. So there's no real money other than you pay a certain amount for that first look, but there's no guarantee. And I think that's the important point. But it's certainly downgraded. It's certainly a sort of rather than the megawatt deal that they had for the 100 million. And there was also reports of tensions between the Sussexes and the massive Netflix as a result of the previous Harry and Meghan. And you might remember they wanted to have this reveal before all sorts of wonderful, sensational headlines. And Harry came out with his book Spare Us All. And the reality was that he revealed a lot of those stories which were supposed to be exclusive to Netflix in that. So there's reports of tension between the broadcasting giant and the Sussexes. And it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. But with love from Meghan and stuff like that, I did try the jam. I was sent a sample all the way over to the UK. Yeah, I think you have to pay the equivalent of a house in Windsor Park to get it for shipping. But I got one of the very rare things. I tried it live on air in a programme that we do regularly. And I have to say that firstly, you couldn't call it jam anymore because it's not jam. To be jam, the legal definition means there's a certain sugar content, and this didn't have it. So it's called a spread. So it's a scam jam to start with. And actually, rather than going with the narrative of a lot of people, I quite liked it, but it was a little bit bitter. What does that tell you?
Oh, that's too funny. Well, there you go. I have to ask you about Princess Anne. A new photograph of Princess Anne has been released by Buckingham Palace to mark her 75th birthday. Now, Princess Anne looked elegant as ever in a blue and white dress and a high collar while leaning gently on a window frame. What did you make of it?
I love Princess Anne. Lots of people do. She's often said to be the hardest working royal because she gets out there and do things. I've had a joy of working with a lot of Olympics. Went to the Beijing game in 2008 and also there in 2012 in London, various other ones. And she's brilliant. She is absolutely brilliant at going to meet the people, but she's very down to earth. She doesn't like all the faff and kerfuffle of royalty. So she wouldn't normally tell people. And what I love about the inside report, there's always an insider, isn't there? What I love about the inside report is that she will only tell people and celebrate if it's like a zero. So if she's 80 or 70 or 60 or 50, then she'll celebrate that. But the fact she's only 75, she wanted to keep it secret. And so she wouldn't meet with certain people in case they asked her, how are you going to celebrate your 75th? So apparently she wanted no fuss at all. She wants to be very down to earth. But we wish her a very, very happy returns for this week for her 75th birthday.
Absolutely. And finally, royal fans have learnt recently that King Charles doesn't possess a passport or a driving licence. Now, this was revealed in a Reddit post that revealed that the monarch was allowed to travel without a passport and drive without his licence. Now, this would be a surprise to some, but I doubt you were surprised hearing this. What are your thoughts?
Well, Well, I wasn't surprised, but I thought it was interesting because a lot of people don't know it. So, whilst we go through all the struggles of going through passport control and trying to get those new electronic ones working, how many times do you have to keep sliding that in? He doesn't need it. And the reality of this is that basically it's diplomatic immunity. So, several monarchs around the world enjoy this privilege. He doesn't need to travel with a passport. I guess all he needs to do is get out one of those pound notes and he can hold that up and say, "That's me." So, he works on that sort of basis. But he doesn't need a driving license. And as the monarch, they enjoy a certain amount of immunity from prosecution as well. So all sorts of privileges, as well as the honours and struggles you sometimes have to have, come with the monarchy.
Andrew Eborn, it was brilliant to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.
Lovely to speak. Look forward to joining you again soon.
The government has been looking at fundamental changes to the state pension. It could see the pension age linked to life expectancy, with forecasts predicting that by 2075, in 50 years' time, a quarter of UK adults will be of pension age, with the number of those over 85 nearly trebling to nearly the same population as Scotland. The guarantee to boost pensions every year is predicted to cost 3 times more than originally thought by the end of this decade. That is a whopping £15.5 billion. With the state requiring almost 3 workers to support a pensioner, is the death of the state pension on the cards in its current form? Joining us to unpack the implications are economist Vicky Price and Barrister Andrew Eborn. Thank you both very much indeed for being with us.
Lovely to join you.
Thanks, Andrew. Let's start with that, Vicky. With the current forecasts, will there be a state pension by 2075?
It's a very good question. It is going to cost an awful lot of money, of course, to support the increasing number of pensioners. So the question is, how do you make up for that likely problem that you're going to have? And one of the ways of doing it is indeed to increase the pension age and carry on increasing it. And also, I think probably, even though it's supposed to be linked to how long one can live, there's no guarantee that life expectancy is necessarily going to be going up. So what the government is trying to do right now is bring perhaps the next increase from 67, which is going to be happening in the next couple of years, to 68, much, much earlier than had been anticipated, despite the fact that for the moment, at any rate, we haven't quite seen that type of increase in life expectancy happen. So they think that that's going to reduce some of the costs, because basically you have to work for longer before you get any of your benefits. But whether that is sustainable in the longer term is a big question.
What are the unintended consequences of raising the pension age, Vicky?
Well, first of all, of course, you have to carry on working. Also, what they're doing is they will be increasing in line the age from which you can, in fact, draw down any pensions you've got. So if you have sort of private pensions, you can start now doing so, or you were able at 55, now it's 57, it's going up to that, and then it will be later. It means that quite a lot of people who perhaps are not going to be employed are going to fall into the bracket of being unemployed and poor before they can actually draw the state pension.
So they'll need other benefits.
Real worry.
They'll need other benefits then, won't they?
Exactly, and that is going to be a drain on resources. But of course, I mean, those benefits are not fantastic. So we're going to have loads and loads of poor pensioners. And it's very few countries which are really good at employing the over 65s, for example. And that is, in places like Japan, which has got a serious population decline that is facing. But in other countries, in most countries, including the UK, we're pretty poor at hiring older people. So the question is, will they be employed, or will there just be poor people in the middle, in between employment and pension, actually not doing very well at all?
I think, Andrew, there'll be quite a lot of people listening to this programme this morning thinking to themselves, I don't necessarily want to work past 65. I have paid my national insurance. I have a right to my pension. That is what a lot of them will be shouting at the radio right now.
Oh, of course, they're all going to be dropping their marmalade sandwiches. You're absolutely right. And it's always horrendous. It's a very, very contentious subject. But the fact is, we're living longer, healthier lives, thanks obviously to medical miracles and technical revolutions. And people always think that work, well, you put it as a sort of bad four-letter word ending in K. But some people enjoy working. If you have a purpose in life, you actually live a lot longer. But the simple economic things is we depend on the young workers to foot the bill for a booming retiring population. And actually, there's a population decline around the world with youngsters. So looking at that, the simple economic realities is that it isn't, raising the pension age isn't a punishment. It's prudent economics to keep up with the system.
When you say prudent economics, though, wouldn't it be prudent economics to say, listen, we have a problem with finances here, we have a problem with the public budget, and the reality is we need to raise taxes? That's the truth of it, isn't it?
Well, you need to raise it somehow, don't you? So you're absolutely right. And people always want to say, I'm going to give you this benefit, but they never really talk about the expenses leading up to how you're going to finance it. So you're right. I think we need to look at everything as a whole. The fact of the matter is...
politically, Andrew, we're in this weird position at the moment where nobody wants to say that. Yeah. It feels like everybody is going round. And I mean, we're hearing about inheritance tax, for example, the idea that potentially might be talked about. We're talking about capital gains tax. Is it not time that the politicians had a grown-up conversation about actually raising income tax? Is that not the reality of it?
You're absolutely right. The only grown-up conversation is what we have on the BBC every time we join you. No, politicians should be honest. The general public are not stupid. They know that if you're going to finance certain benefits, that money has to come from somewhere. And what they need to do is just be honest about it. Say, this is how much it's going to cost. This is how we're looking at raising it. But that's the reality. But you look at countries around the world. I always say history repeats itself because we don't learn the lessons from history. Look around the world. That's a futurist, as you know. I go around the world talking about trends and so on and so forth, and how we can learn the wonderful lessons from history, but also looking at new technology. Look at a place like Denmark and Libya. They're tied to the highest retirement age at 70 already. Now, at the moment, it's 66 for men and women. Here, it's scheduled to increase to 67 between 2026 and 2028, and then to 68 in 2044 to 2046. And the economics dictate it. So you either turn around, as you wisely say, well, we need to finance this increasing pot of pensioners. How are we going to do it? We're either going to raise taxes or we're going to have to make people work longer. But I go back to my general point is that having a purpose in life is important. Work is not horrible. I love doing what I do, appearing with you and various other people as well, more platforms than Paddington. And having that sort of side has got to be good as well. It's a raising life expectancy. You've got financial stability in the pension system needs to be looked at, but also talking about productivity and economic growth. As the older generation encourages people to stay in the workforce longer, they're also contributing, obviously, to the economic output through taxes and skills. And also it keeps people, as they say, having a mission in life, and that's got to be good.
Yeah, but even with all the medical modern miracles, you know, not every old person has a great quality of life. It has to be said. And Vicky, you're talking about the fact that they could be poor along with that. But look, it's as Chris said, and this is the key issue. Governments of every stripe continue to kick this can down the road because it is deemed to be political suicide to go against pensioners and do anything bad to pensioners at the current point in time. Particularly was for the Conservative Party with the triple lock. But it has to change at some point, doesn't it? Is there anywhere, I mean, Andrew's pointing to Denmark and Japan, is there anywhere that really gets this right?
Well, we can look at the US and see that, in fact, there isn't any serious retirement age. You can carry on if you want it for quite some time. And that is a problem. I mean, of course, you see that in presidents as well, sort of carrying on at ages that you normally would have expected they wouldn't be doing it. But it seems to be considered to be perfectly normal, which is interesting. But I think there is another solution, which is, of course, that you can contribute more to a private pension. So we try and avoid the poor pensioners point that we were making earlier. And, of course, what's going on right now is that the government is encouraging, and I think it's working reasonably well, this system of auto-enrollment in a pension scheme. So when you're working, you pay a certain amount, certain percentage of your salary, and the company you work for does the same. And that seems to have at least increased the pot, if you like, of what people are putting aside. The real issue is, though, of course, young people coming into the jobs market, not getting paid very much, looking at what the cost of all this is, probably being a little bit resentful. And also they have absolutely no idea whether what they're paying now is going to give them any certainty of having a reasonable retirement period. So that is the real concern. Can you use the private sector and can you use it effectively?
Great to have you both with us, Vicky Price and Andrew Eborn.
It is just coming up to 8:32. We're going to continue talking about the economy and the government because the UK's industry minister is in Belfast. We'll find out why after we get the news from Amy.
Good morning. The rate at which prices are rising has gone up to 3.8% this month, up from 3.6% in June. The Office for National Statistics said the rise in inflation was due to increases in airfares, fuel and food. Here's our business